So, further improvements to the Master. We, since the last time, I have made the suspension adjustable, so you can go from the 150 millimeters of travel in the upper position, and then if you want to make it more lower the center of gravity for street riding, you swap the pin out from here to the lower pin. That drops the whole chassis, batteries and everything down by about 50 millimeters, giving you a much lower center of gravity, much more stable for street riding. I've also made some new power knobs style power pads, so really helps feel really locked in for off-road. The tyre I have changed to Heidenau K66 1990. This is more of a street tyre, but actually found that the CST 186 gave poor control at slower speeds off-road, so I wanted something with a bit more curvature to see if that helped. It seems to help with the low speed manoeuvrability a bit. I also completely buckled the original Master rim, so I had to replace that. I actually replaced it with a EXN C38 rim, which is quite a bit narrower on the rim, which gives a better curvature and a better fit for this tyre than previously. It's a little bit more bouncy, but actually with this tyre, which is rated for I think 200 kilos, it actually gives quite a good handling off-road. It absorbs a lot more bumps. With the 150 millimeter travel suspension, it's extremely smooth. Yeah, just and then putting the 9 pedals on to reduce the weight, so the whole thing is coming in at 40 kilograms now, which is pretty decent weight for the power and the extra suspension parts. Oh, this is still the stock S22 DNM RCP2S 240 millimeter with a 750 pound spring. Even though this is not, it's a pretty much linear geometry for the suspension, it actually gives, with the compression adjustment, you can dial it most closed, like 2 or 3 clicks off. Fully closed gives you the sort of the bottom out prevention for big jumps, and then if you're not doing big jumps, you just wind it out a bit, and then you can make more benefit of the 150 millimeters of travel over more technical terrain. So yeah, quite happy with all the mods so far. It's kind of looking quite good. Yeah, looking good. Happy with it. Quick comparison of the upgraded suspension with stock and in the two configurations. So the Master comes with a stock pedal height of around 220 millimeters. I increased the suspension travel and the ride height quite considerably, so that raised the uncompressed pedal height up to 273 millimeters around approximately. Now, unlike the stock Master, the suspension doesn't have a huge preload, so the stock Master pretty much was, you couldn't really compress the if you had it pumped up sufficiently hard that you wouldn't bottom out all the time. It didn't really compress at all. With just your basic weight, it only really compressed when there was bumps and things like that. So it's more like a pogo stick than suspension, really. But with the new suspension, there's a very little preload in the spring, so you'll get a reasonable sag, 20-30 millimeters from that when you actually get onto the wheel. So in the off-road configuration, your ride height is probably around 240 to 50 millimeters, and then when you change it to the street config, it brings it back towards where the Master is, around 220 millimeters. it will it lowers, you know, the whole mass of the chassis and the batteries and everything, so it makes a big difference to the stability at any kind of speed on the road and off road as well. You still got more suspension travel than the Master. You still got 100 millimeters even in the street config, so you know, it gives quite a big improvement. The again, the ride height once you actually get onto this will drop slightly. It'll have a bit of sag, which is what you want with suspension, because the idea is that it has, you know, you're suspended between two limits rather than just sitting up at one limit. There was a few questions around the clearance when you bottom out. So the Master, I think, bottoms out around 150 millimeters of pedal height. This goes a bit lower because you've got the full 150 millimeters of travel, but around when it's bottomed out, ignoring any compression of the tyre, you end up at around 125 millimeters of clearance, but versus the 150 millimeters of the Master as stock. But because I've shaved off quite a bit of the pedal hangers, I don't think there's actually very much difference between the clearance from stock to this one. So the two are actually quite comparable in terms of clearance when bottomed out, and you bottom out a lot less with this configuration than you would on the Master. So yeah, it gives quite a big improvement overall. The other modification from previously is the addition of the power knobs style power pads, which actually suit my riding style quite well, especially for off-road. It's nice to have your more flexibility with your angle of your lower leg when you're landing. You don't want to have to you know, land and compress your legs and then end up overpowering the wheel. So having that extra freedom works quite nicely. The extra width of the front toe section really makes you feel very locked in, and then the big wide braking pads, yeah, they really help stability under braking where you might get wobbles. It really helps. So I'm very happy with those. The other thing was the K66 tire. I had to make a new mudguard for that, so that's actually made out of TPU now as well. It's a 1990 tire, so it's about the widest you can possibly fit in, and the largest diameter, so you can fit into the Master wheel arch. So it's but it does give a really smooth ride off road. I haven't tried it in the wet yet. I'm not expecting too much off road, but it has proven really quite a good off road tire in the dry. That's it for now. Again, all the CAD is on Dropbox, link below if you want to download it.